God, where is everything? Why do I sit up here and get started and then I don't have everything up here? Okay. I have no idea. Why does this always happen to me? Okay. Okay. Well, it is what it is, right? Well, hello, friends. Welcome to the 4th episode of the Knit, Knot, and Weave podcast. My name is Dorothy, and I come to you from Columbia, Maryland. You can find me on Instagram as Phelia, Phweelya, and you can find me on Instagram. I do have a personal account that's under Phelia, but I also have an account for this podcast called, obviously, Knit, Knot, and Weave. And I will link both of those below in the description box. This is my little corner of the YouTube where I talk about all my fibery adventures. I consider myself a fiber artist. I knit, crochet, weave, dye. I have not tried spinning yet. Maybe one day. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I did try spinning. My girlfriend Sheila attempted to teach me how to spin at her house because she had a wheel and she had a drop spindle, and she gave me a drop spindle and some wool to try spinning at home to practice. I forget what she called it, but it was the V in how to spread the fiber. Unfortunately, when I came home and attempted to spin, for those of you that have done drop spindle, for those of you that haven't done drop spindling, you sort of roll the drop spindle down your thigh and you let it drop so that it spins, and you slowly pull the fiber so that it can spin down and twist. And at the time, my cat Frisco thought it was a new toy for him. He came barreling into the room and started batting it around, and I was like, okay, thank you, Frisco, for saving me from another hobby. So that got put away. Let me see. Thank you to my returning viewers. I am very grateful for your support. For anybody who is a new viewer, welcome. Thank you for checking out my channel. I hope you enjoy my little corner and what I share. And I know I have a quirky personality, and it might fit for some people and it might not fit for others, but that's okay. So today I would like to talk a little bit about recapping 2021. I would like to talk a little bit about my goals moving forward into 2022, and I'm talking knitting fibery related goals. I have watched, I know some other podcasters do a word for the year, and I couldn't really decide between 2 words. So I have 2 words for my year this year. But without further ado, let's get started. So let's start with what I'm wearing. These are crocheted earrings from, I think it's the Kooky Koala. They're on Etsy, and I will link that information down below. But this is the Upward shawl. I'll take it off so you guys can see it. It's a very simple shawl. It was knit with a sport weight yarn. And you can see the stitches better this way. And this was knit with Brooks Farms Solo Silk. Unfortunately, they have retired and they are no longer knitting. But I have a number of their skeins, so I'm trying to use them up. But this is an old shawl. I made it a few years ago, but it's my colors, so. And so moving forward, recapping 2021, I am happy to say that I have completed 205 projects. Now, full disclosure, 164 of those projects were done on a knitting machine. 4 of them were long scarves, basically double layer scarves that were donated, and 160 were hats that were made and donated to a local Title I school. I am the organizer for a knitting group called Columbia Sip and Knit here in Columbia, Maryland. And every year for the past 5 years, we have donated hats to a different Title I school. And I just, I got the knitting machine last year and I just went to town. I had a lot of fun with it. But of regular, like physical hand knitting, crocheting, weaving, whatever, I made 38 knitted projects and 3 crocheted projects. I was actually shocked that I have no weaving projects for 2021. I did warp up 2 of my looms, and that's as far as I got. So my total numbers, I made 19 hats, I made 5 cowls, I made 4 shawls, made 8 pairs of socks. For someone who hadn't knit socks in, I want to say, I think it was 8 or 9 years, I knit 8 pairs of socks last year. I knit 1 cardigan, my Rhinebeck sweater, which unfortunately it was too hot the day I went to Rhinebeck to even wear it. And I made 10 dishcloths, and I made 4 other objects here and there. One of them being the unicorn blanket for my niece, which she absolutely loved when she opened it on Christmas. Oh, makes my heart melt. So all those projects put together, it was a total of 44,151 yards that are gone from my stash. Because, yes, most of those were knit from stash last year. Does that mean I didn't buy any yarn? Of course not. Of course not. Because if you've been following me, you saw all the stash enhancements that I've gotten every so often. So, of that 44,000, approximately 19,000 came from the hats and the scarves that I made with the knitting machine. So we don't include those. So that leaves about 25,000 that I've actually knit or crocheted from my stash. So not my best year, but not my worst year. So, anywho, and take a sip of coffee. I'm out of practice. My lovely sweater mug. The reason why it has taken me this long to podcast for the new year is I was exhausted. Coming back to school after winter break with the Omicron spiking in our area, it was frustrating and exhausting at work. For those of you that don't know, I am a school teacher. I'm a media specialist in a high school, and it's a large high school. We have almost 2,000 students. So 2,000 students plus, 250 staff members. That's a lot of people to be around during a COVID spike. Yes, we are wearing masks, but, we're working with teenagers, and a lot of them are dealing with mask fatigue, and they don't want to wear it, or, they get lazy and they wear it under their noses. And so it's a constant, not a battle, because once you've told our kids, hey, over the nose, they're usually pretty good about it, as long as you don't have an attitude with them, or they don't perceive you as having an attitude. Our kids are usually pretty good. But again, I can understand. It is mask fatigue. We are all tired of wearing the masks. But we also want to keep everybody safe. Unfortunately, when we got back to school, like I said, the Omicron variant was spiking in our area, which led to a huge shortage of bus drivers, which means certain kids didn't get picked up. And because, you know, people were calling in last minute, or they were waking up and they weren't feeling so hot, you never really knew from day to day who'd be coming in and who wasn't. So we really didn't know until we came back to school that so many bus drivers were out, that a number of kids did not manage to get to school, or they, you know, the buses were running late. Then you add on to that the fact that staff members are now out sick because of COVID, and substitutes are not picking up jobs because they want to be safe. They don't want to work in schools. They don't want to expose themselves. And when you don't have enough substitutes, then you've got to pull from emergency coverage. And what that means is that teachers basically lose their planning periods. So if they have a free period, they are pulled to cover somebody else's class. And because I'm a media specialist and I have a bigger space, there have been times where I've had 2 or 3 classes in the media center that me and my assistant are covering, because sometimes there's just not enough teachers who have a planning period all at the same time that a teacher who cannot be in the building needs coverage. And our county was being adamant that they were not going to close. They were ignoring the parents and the teachers and the students who testified at board meetings, asking them to please close, or let's go virtual for 2 weeks, just so that we can get the spike down. And when a school system very obviously is not putting forth their best effort to protect their teachers and their staff and their students, you get depressed, you feel stressed, you feel like you don't matter to them. And it causes people depression, and it causes people stress. And when we get home, we just want to eat and lay down and relax and pray that what's been going on during the day doesn't keep us up all night, because then you excuse me, because then you add on lack of sleep, and it just, you know, you just don't want to do anything when you get home from work. So let's move on to more pleasant things. I have not done much knitting this month because, like I said, it was a very stressful month. But I did manage to write down some goals that I would like to work towards for 2022. The podcaster who does Noble Character Crafts, and for the life of me, I cannot think of her name right now. But I'll link her podcast in the description box below. But she's a very, very lovely woman. If you have not checked out her podcast, I highly recommend you check her out. She is one of the few podcasters that I've watched who manages to use up every bit of scrap yarn she ever has. She always has scrappy projects going, and after following her for a while, it seems like she will have a skein of leftovers, or, you know, half a ball, whatever's left over, and she will use it in one project. And when she uses it in one project, if there's anything left, she uses it in another project, another scrappy project. And then when she has like the tiniest little bit, like I'm talking like 8 to 12 inches, she will Russian join them together, and then she crochets a granny stripe blanket. I could not have the patience to use the Russian join on fingering weight yarn nonetheless. But anyway, she is a very, very lovely crafter, very, very soothing voice to listen to. She makes some beautiful, beautiful projects, and even her scrappy projects are just lovely. So, but she does, or she runs the Make 9 board. And basically, it is, for those of you that don't know, the Make 9 Mal, it's called Make Along. You just pick out 9 things that you would like to make for the coming year, or 9 things you might like to try for the coming year, or a combination. So you could put on there that you want to knit a sweater or a cardigan, or you could put in that you want to knit a particular pattern, or you may want to try a new technique. This year I want to learn brioche, or this year I want to, you know, attempt a steeking project or color work. But it's just meant as, it's not meant to be stressful, not at all. It is just meant to, like, if I had done this early in January and I was in my rut, I could have gone to my Make 9 board and said, okay, what can get me out of this funk? So it's not meant to be stressful. If you don't make all 9, you don't make all 9. It's no big deal. It's really just something personal. But if you are on Instagram, you can write in there, you know, the hashtag Make 9 Mal, Make 9 Mal to 2022, and you'll see all the things that people have posted up there. So I did do a Make 9 board this year, and I'm going to share with you the items that I've put on mine. So one of the things I want to make is I want to make a pair of DK socks. Sadly, I had no DK sock yarn in my stash. I know, a perfect excuse to go buy yarn, right? But I knew I wanted to make those this year. So I did get some, I think I got a skein or 2 last year, but they'll be made this year. I'm probably going to do a simple DK sock pattern. I was looking at the Crazy Sock Ladies pattern, except hers are cuffed down and I tend to knit my socks toe up. But I'm sure it's simple enough that I could just reverse it and do it. So that's Kay from the Crazy Sock Lady. I'll link her pattern below. It's on Ravelry. And I will link to her YouTube channel as well. The other item one of the other items is called Le Pouf, and it's by Beta Jezik. It is a finger weight cardigan, but the fingering weight is held double, and it's a marling project, so it'll go from, you know, one color to another. And I believe I have the yarn for it. I have to check, but I ordered some yarn from Cafe Creations when they were having their 20% off sale in December. And I haven't opened that box yet. Can you believe that? My other project that I want to do is the My Boy Lollipop Pullover. It's by Nancy Ricci. And I actually bought yarn for that. At Rhinebeck. I managed to find some Lola Bean yarn. I'm so excited. And I've shared that colorway, I think, in my last video in episode 3. And I'll put a picture of these items up here. The other one I wanted to do is I want to make the Nordiska by Caitlin Hunter. This will be my first colorwork sweater. But I just I don't know what it is about her colorwork designs, but I have like several that I want to make from her, but I'm trying the Nordiska first because the colorwork is all at the bottom and it's a raglan increases, so I don't have to worry about the colorwork going across the top and possibly being too tight. So I have the Nordiska by Caitlin Hunter. I have not picked out yarn for that yet. I have watched a couple of videos, a couple of other YouTubers who have done color work, and I've taken notes, and you know, some of them say that when you get to the actual color work portion, you want to go up a needle size. So we're going to try that and we'll see what happens. I also really, really, really want to make the ranunculus this year. But the ranunculus is by Midori Hirose, or Hirose. And I've just seen so many people knit it. It looks like a lovely pattern. I will probably make it. I'm thinking it might be my first sweater that I make with fingering and either mohair or a suri alpaca. I haven't decided yet. I have to see what I have in my stash. But so I want to make the ranunculus. I want to make another Stephen West shawl. I want to make his melting marl shawl. So I'll be using up my fingering weight stash for that. Of course, I've got several fingering weight scrappy projects in the works already, but we won't go into that right now. I do want to use one of my advents. I haven't decided which one yet, but I want to use one of my Christmas advents that I got to make the Brioche Adventure by Jonathan Tallow. It's a beautiful, beautiful brioche shawl that works. It's a 2-color brioche, but you're using minis. So you'll start with, in one section, you use 2 colors, and the color that is the non-dominant color will become the dominant color in the next section when you add on another yarn. And then that yarn that is the non-dominant yarn in the second section will become the dominant color in the third section. So you work your way through all of your minis. One other item I want to make is I would like to weave candy cane tea towels, and I'll put a picture of what they are up here. I've actually had the yarn warped up and I have it strung. I just need to get it on the actual loom. And then the last thing I really want to make this year is I want to attempt to make something with my woven cloth. I have seen a number of people who have turned their woven shawls or, woven cloths into little, well, some of them may have done project bags, but I'm looking at making just like a little pouch, maybe like a notions bag or something like that. So those are my that's my Make 9 board. Now my other goals for this year is, obviously, I want to knit more from my stash. I really want to pare down my stash. I'm slowly going through, what am I trying to say? I am slowly going through and looking at each weight of yarn. I know most of my yarn is up on Ravelry, so I've been going through each weight of yarn and really like looking at it and thinking, am I really ever going to make something with that? And trying to decide if I should get rid of it somehow or if I'm going to keep it. I've had on my mind, I've had an idea for a scarf with some lace weight leftovers, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen. So I'm like, am I holding on to this lace weight just for the sake of possibly doing something in the future, or should I just get rid of it? I'm not a huge lace shawl knitter. My very first, I don't know if I ever shared this story, my very first time that I wanted to try and knit a lace shawl, I had a pattern picked out. It was, I don't know, it was a stole pattern. And I went to my local yarn shop at the time, and I was talking, to one of the women there, and I said, it's my first time trying lace, and where's your lace section? And I'm looking through, and I found this absolutely stunning red color, because red is my color. But the yarn was super, super thin. Come to find out that I learned it was called cobweb lace. And the store owner kept trying to talk me out of it, trying to say that, may not want to use cobweb lace for your first lace project. I didn't listen because the red just spoke to me. Needless to say, that shawl never got finished. I could not tell you where it is. I couldn't tell you where the yarn is. I have no idea what I did with it. So that's that. But I'm definitely looking to pare down my stash. Might be selling it. Might just be, bringing some of it to my knitting group does a yarn swap every so often. We do it twice a year. And I might bring some there. I might give away to some friends. Some of I might put aside for giveaways on here or on Instagram or something, but we'll see. Another goal is I want to knit a pair of socks a month so that in December I will have 12 new pairs of socks. I haven't decided if I'm going to include the DK weight socks in there, but I probably should just to make sure I can get to my 12. Like I said, I want to knit more sweaters for myself, so I definitely have a lot of sweaters on my Make 9. I have a ton of sweaters that I have favorited. You ever you want to start something, and you want to try something, and you start looking through Ravelry, and you're like, oh, I like this one, and you favorite it, or you put it in your cart to purchase the pattern, and you keep looking, and oh, I like this one, and oh, I like that one, and before you know it, you have 10 or 15 sweaters in your cart, and you're like, I can't buy all those patterns at one time because I can't knit that many cardigans at one time. But I am looking to make more personal projects, more sweaters for myself. So that is definitely high on my goals for this year. I am looking to write up more of my hat patterns. I have a tendency that when I finish a project and I don't know what I want to cast on next, that I will just grab a skein of yarn, cake it up, and I'll just start casting on a hat and doing a different pattern. I don't necessarily follow a pattern. I just create my own. But I would like to really start working on writing them up, getting them test knitted, and then getting them out on Ravelry. One of my goals for this year is also to be much more consistent with podcasting. I know it hasn't been the greatest. I know I'm only on episode 4, but I would like to try and get a podcast out hopefully every other week. That's my goal. What are some things you are looking to knit this year? Or what are some of your goals for 2022? Do you have any goals? Do you have any knitting goals or stashing goals? Or share them with me. I'm always curious as to what other people are looking to do for the year. If you have a Make 9 board, share it. Let me know what you're. Tag me on Instagram. I don't care. I'll go check it out. So I was watching an episode of Earth Tone Girl, and she usually does a word for the year. And I think Nitty Natty does a word for the year. But I couldn't narrow down what my word would be for the year. So I actually have 2 words for this year. My first word is organize. I need to get myself more organized. I need to get myself more organized with my house. I need to get myself more organized with my knitting. I need to get myself more organized with my podcasting. And I need to get more organized with my yarn dyeing, because I really, really want to open an Etsy shop. Well, I have an Etsy shop, but I really want to start selling the yarn. I watched a lot of videos with Rebecca from ChemKnits. I spent last year dyeing up yarn, playing with different techniques, learning what chemicals were needed for different techniques. There were certain acid dyes that required citric acid or vinegar, and there are other dyes that actually, other colors I should say, that work better with ammonium something. This is bad. I needed to write those in my notes, but I will put it down here. And I need to get, those were the 4 things. I need to get more organized with my house, my knitting, my podcasting, and my yarn dyeing, because I want to start selling my yarn. I have too much that I dyed, and I'm enjoying it too much to stop dyeing it. So I would like to share it. And then my other word for the year is challenge. I want to challenge myself this year. I want to challenge myself as a knitter, and I want to challenge myself to try new things. I want to challenge myself in regards to my weight training. I go to a kettlebell gym, and I go about 4 times a week. And I want to say I've been going for about 6 months now, and I definitely can feel the difference in my body. I can feel the difference in my clothes. I can feel the difference when I'm carrying items around my house. Like, I can lift a full laundry basket above my head and walk up the stairs now. So I know I have increased my strength ability, but I want to challenge myself to do more difficult, I don't know what they're called, techniques, to try and, I don't know how to explain this. I know that when you do the same strength move over and over and over again, that your muscles sort of get used to that. And in order for your muscles to really grow and tone and build, you need to mix it up. You need to work that same muscle, but you need to work it in a different way. And I'm not saying that I'm a 50-year-old woman. I am not going to get big and bulky. I'm not going to look like a weightlifter. I just want to get more toned. I want to get more muscles around my bones to support my bones as I get older. I want to avoid falling or tripping, breaking bones. So I want to challenge myself to turn my body into a machine. That's what kettlebells is really about. It's, you're using these weights, but you're using these weights along with body movements. You're not using weight machines that support your body. I don't know how to explain it. I've done the gym routines. I have done the body pump classes, and now I'm into kettlebells, and I think that this is my jam. This is my jam when it comes to physical activity, working out, challenging myself, and hopefully losing the rest of the weight that I want to lose. I also want to challenge myself. Did I say I wanted to challenge myself with my knitting? Try new things? I think I did. So those are my 2 words for the year. Get organized and challenge myself. So those are my goals. So now that we have shared, we've recapped 2021. I've shared my goals for 2022. Let me share what little knitting that I have done this month. So first up, we have The Hitchhiker, and it's by Martina Behm. And the yarn is a deep stash dive. It's creatively dyed yarn. She no longer dyes. She stopped dyeing a number of years ago, but this was picked up at Maryland Sheep and Wool, and this is the colorway Fresh. And it's, just a simple shawl. It will probably go in the gift basket, but that's one for 2021. That's one. I'm really getting confused here. Now, the next project I'm going to share is one of my hat patterns. And the first one I chose some yarn from my stash. It was the Knitting Boutique's Susquehanna DK base, which is the same base that I made my Rhinebeck sweater out of, my portage. But it doesn't, I don't know if it's the color or it's the dye. It doesn't feel the same. It doesn't have that lush feeling that the yarn that I used in my sweater does, because it's 85% Polworth yarn and 15% silk. So this was the pattern that I started with. And I don't know what it is about this yarn, but it's creating these weird holes. Like these gaps here that I've never seen in yarn before. But anyway, so I wasn't too thrilled with the way the cable pattern came out at the front. So I redid it. And I pulled out some, this is Brooks Farms Solo. This shawl was made with Solo silk. This is made with Solo. This is just pure 100% wool. And I liked the way the cable in this one came out better, because it stands out a little more as opposed to in this one. This one sort of looks like it's folding in. This one, the cable pops out. So once I decided I really like this one, I said I have to make it one more time. And so I pulled out some Barocco that I had in my stash, Barocco Tonal, and I made another one. And I really like, let's go over here. I really like the way the cable pops out in this pattern. So I'm going to write this one up and get it test knitted by hopefully a couple of people. Next, I have a pair of striping socks. These are, the yarn is called String Theory, and it's their Continuum Self-Striping, and the colorway is called Event Horizon. And they were done toe up. I used black yarn for the toes, heels, and cuffs. And then I pulled the color that I last would come next, since I didn't use all the purple. I put purple up here and green up here, just as like a little added detail. I did the shadow wrap heel. And I love them. I love the colors. So, one pair of socks. Now, the other pair of socks are not quite finished. This was my challenge for the try something new knit along or mal, whatever. I've never done afterthought heels. I was not a big sock knitter to begin with, so I never learned how to do afterthought heels. So that was my challenge. There's that word. That was my challenge for January. So I have my socks finished. Again, rounded toe, toe up. I put stitch markers in for where the heel should go. And I will need to watch quite a few videos on how to do this, because I have never done afterthought heels. So hopefully I will have those done in the next 2 weeks, ready for my next podcast, because I will do one. Then I just made a couple of hats for charity. I made 2 on the knitting machine. So this one I just used up some acrylic that was left over from another project. And it's another lovely reversible hat. I personally like the orange and pink side. So there's one. And then I made another one, but I made this one a bit too long. But I guess some kid could probably double it up and have a really, really nice warm ears. But again, this was just some acrylic that I had in my stash. And then I crocheted up this little beanie with some leftover yarn that I had for some little kid. And then I had some leftover yarn, some of the yarn that I dyed. I made a hat for myself, and with the leftovers, I made this little itty bitty tiny baby hat. So I have a little bit more. I'm going to make a little pom-pom, I think, and put it up top. And that is all I have done for January. I told you, I was exhausted when I got home from work. My throat is dry. I am so out of practice with podcasting. Sweater weather. Got my sweater weather mug. So we're going to move on to stash enhancement. I did make a few more purchases between December and now, and so I will share those with you. So I came across these on Etsy. The dyer is called brazenstitches.com, and she's on Etsy. And this is self-striping yarn, but they're the twin sets. So one will be mostly black and one will be mostly white. And I cannot wait to get these started. And what was really nice is I got this little mini as a little extra bonus in my package. And look at those. You see the little shimmers of stellina? I love my little shimmers. I will put links to all the shops down below. In my next purchase was from Tall Pine Yarns. Again, these are both self-striping yarns. I'm really into self-striping socks all of a sudden. I don't know why. But I thought this one was really pretty. So it's rainbows. It will go in rainbow order, and then there'll be some gray stripes, and then another set of rainbow and gray. And then, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you the name. She doesn't have a name on this one, but it is self-striping. It is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and 462 yards for 100 grams. Well, the name isn't even on the invoice. Okay, sorry. I'd have to look back on Etsy and see if I could find the name. The next one is, again, another Tall Pine Yarns. And look at that color. Look at that bright purpley pink. This is, again, another self-striping, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 462 yards for 100 grams. And what's really pretty is they each came with a little progress keeper. And they were both different. So this is a little acorn. There we go. A little acorn. And this one's a little mountain scene. Very, very pretty. Always love when we get little extra gifts. I did place an order with Freckled Whimsy. Again, another self-striping yarn. And this is one of my DK yarns that I purchased. It's called Jelly Monster. And it comes with a mini to do toes and heels or heels and cuffs. I have no idea since I have not made self-striping DK weight socks. But it's Serendipity DK. It's a 75-25 superwash merino nylon, 245 yards. And again, it's called Jelly Monster, and it's got 8 stripes in this one. And then the other Freckled Whimsy I got, you know, fluorescent. I like the bright colors sometimes, especially when it's against black. So this is called Happenstance. This is an 80-20 superwash merino nylon. It is fingering weight, 434 yards for 100 grams. And this one is called Who Glows There? I love these creative names. I've got to come up with some creative names for mine. Then while I was on the Freckled Whimsy site, I did join one of their sock clubs. It's a month-to-month sock club, so I can cancel at any time. And now that I'm looking at all this self-striping yarn that I've purchased, I may be canceling or putting it on hold for a little while. So the first one, the club is called Darker Side of Magic. And I joined the club on the 3rd month. So this is the 3rd Darker Side of Magic. It's called Pixie Pandemonium. And it comes with a self-striping yarn and a mini to do heels and cuffs or heels and toes or whatever. It is a 75-25 superwash merino nylon, 460 yards for 100 grams. And then the other one, this is called Unbreakable Vow. Look at that color. So again, it's another 75-25 superwash merino, 460 yards for 100 grams. So I have 4 Freckled Whimsies I need to knit up. So just there, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pairs of socks. I'm halfway to my 12. Now if I could just get them all on the needles. Okay, another purchase that I made was from Ruby and Rose's Yarn. She is, if you've never heard of her, she is a high school student. Yes, you heard me correct. She's a high school student that started a yarn dyeing business, and she has beautiful colors. Her family was getting ready to move, and of course, those of us who have moved in our lives know that we don't always want to move with all the stuff we have. So she was having a huge, I think it was 20 or 25% off sale, and for every order you placed, you got a free mini. So I bought one of her mini sets. I mean, look at those colors. And this is called the Daydreamer Mini Collection. This is her Rosebud Minis base, which is 80% superwash merino, 15% nylon, and 5% gold stellina. and there's 87 yards per 20 grams. Pretty. And then the other one I got was a sock set of hers. That gorgeous deep colors. And it comes with a mini. This one is called Apple Cider, and it's on her Plump Rose base, which is an 85% superwash merino, 15% nylon, a 2-ply, 400 yards. It's very soft. So I'm looking forward. Oh, look, see? 8, number 8. I'm more than halfway to my 12. Anybody want to knit them up for me? So here's, like I said, this was Apple Cider, and I'm looking forward to trying her yarn. And then here was my free little mini. So she also has a podcast. I believe it is called the Ruby and Roses Podcast. I will link her down below. She's a very, very sweet girl. She also has some designs out. So I would highly recommend that you check her out. Check out her website. Check out her yarn. And then my last acquisition just came in. I'm sorry I can't show you the Yarn Cafe Creations yarn that I purchased for Le Pouf because I forgot to bring it up here. But I did bring up my very, very last acquisition. And I don't know what I'm doing with this colorway yet. But I saw it. And it was dyed by Kevin from Needles at the Ready. Him and his husband Ray do a podcast together. Very, very funny guys. I love watching them. But Kevin has, like me, started, dipping his toe into dyeing yarns, and he's been putting his out on Etsy. And I checked out his yarn, and this one just caught my eye. Look at that. Is this not stunning? There's hints of almost like a chocolate purple. I know it sounds strange, but it's like a chocolatey, a very, very warm purple, a warm lavender with little hints of pinks in here. So I don't know what I'm going to do, but I have 3 skeins. The colorway is called Sea Witch. So I'm guessing it's probably based on Ursula. Not quite sure. But it's on his Achilles socks, which is a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 462 yards for 100 grams. That's their logo. He probably he doesn't have any more of this in the shop because I bought the last 3. But he probably has some other yarns in his shop. I would highly suggest you go check him out, or check out the Etsy shop, see what he has left. And that is all I have for this episode. Okay. So I do have one more acquisition, and it is a subscription. I don't know how many of you have heard about this, but it's the Row 1 mini subscription. And what's really neat about this subscription is they find yarn dyers that are probably small batch yarn dyers, or yarn dyers that aren't very well known. And they create these little mini packages. You get 10 minis in a package for your subscription. I'm not going to take them all out, but look at these beautiful colors. And if you choose to buy 2 subscriptions for a month, or 2 subscriptions every month, it will be the same dyer, but you will get 20 different colors of minis. So you always get a letter with your minis. It tells you who the dyer is. So this month, the Carnival of Colors Club for Row 1 yarn brings you 100 grams of fingering sock from, and it's $3.98. I've never heard of this dyer. Most of it is fingering sock, 75% merino, 25% nylon, for a total of 463 yards. And then it lists the colors. It lists the 10 colors. And then the color names are also on the minis. And these are wound up, I believe, in that butterfly style, so you can immediately start knitting from them or crocheting from them if you're a crocheter. So that's it. Now I'm done. I'm not going to show you any of my works in progresses right now. In my Get Organized, my word for the year, one of my words for the year, I have been reorganizing my house, and a friend of mine has been helping me. And one of the things that I did for this is I went around to every room in my house and I pulled out every project bag I could find that has something in it. I did not open them all. I just put them all in a nice big pile, and I mean big. So that will probably be, I shouldn't say probably, that will be my next episode. I'll be going through all my whips. I will be going through all my project bags, emptying them out, hopefully reclaiming some needles, probably finding a lot of leftover yarns, because I am notorious that when I finish a project, I leave the needles and the yarns in the project bags until I do one of these major cleanings. Unfortunately, I think I have left quite a number of project bags. I have too many project bags. That's the problem. Because if you don't have all those project bags, you can't have all those projects started. And anyway, so my next episode is probably going to be some sort of a whip parade and reclaiming project bags and reclaiming needles. But I would love to hear what you guys are working on. I would love to hear what you guys are working towards or striving towards. What goals do you have this year for your knitting, for your crocheting? What goals do you have for yourself? Do you have any challenges for yourself this year? If you've enjoyed this podcast, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you get notified for my next podcast, and give me a comment. Anyway, I wish you all very, very well. Hope you all stay clear of COVID. I hope that if you manage to catch it, you manage to catch a very, very mild case. And I wish you all well. Okay? Bye-bye. Ciao, ciao. Why do I always say, I am so out of practice. I am so out of practice. That was my tummy. Ever and ever and ever and ever, because I can never get things right. Swalla. What is with these little hairs? Okay. Okay, Dorothy, stop that. Ready? Who knows this one? Okay, now I'm being silly. I am losing my mind. What are you still doing here? Thanks for watching.